Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and it's a solemn event, but we're going to have a good time today. But I want to introduce James Hannes, the Downtown Development Specialist for Gloversville, who spent a lot of effort in organizing the event. James?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out to celebrate the unveiling of Hometown Heroes and, of course, kicking off Memorial Day weekend. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Kyle Wood, Eagle Scout, will be conducting the Pledge of Allegiance for us today, so please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, next up, for the national anthem, Gloversville High School student Olivia Hannafed.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Olivia. That was excellent. Thank you. Today, we continue to memorialize those that gave us the ultimate sacrifice in the name of our freedom. And we're going to have a number of people speaking on that sacrifice today. The first I'd like to introduce is Mayor Vincent DeSantis to say a few words on Gloversville's history of veteran support. Mayor?
Gloversville has a long history of honoring our veterans, and it is a significant history because even from the Civil War, you will see monuments around the city in bronze commemorating the sacrifice of those who died, and the sacrifice of those who served. To my right here is a photograph of a victory parade in 1919 at the end of the First World War. I want all of you to take a look at that just to see the vibrancy of it and all of that. On my left is a photograph that was taken in 1900 after the Spanish-American War, that there was a parade in Gloversville to honor that. And I want to talk a little bit about that First World War because that's when Veterans Day, it was originally called Armistice Day. I can remember my mother saying that at the 11th hour of the 11th month, on the 11th day of that month, all of the, everything fell silent at school. She was in school in the 1920s. And she can remember being absolutely still for 2 or 3 minutes at her desk. And all of the whistles blew and the church bells rang throughout the city at that moment. And that was to honor the veterans of the First World War. And when you think about the First World War, so many people died, and it was a huge, huge bloodletting, millions of people. And in Europe, an entire generation of young men was wiped off the face of the earth. So that in 1920 there were no young men anywhere in Europe, in France, in Germany, in England. It was an enormous sacrifice that was relatively unexpected in 1914 when that war started. And we have a statue, a bronze statue of the doughboy that commemorates that was put there in the 1920s. And underneath it, it says, "If ye break faith with us, we shall not sleep." So this is the message. And we have never broken faith here in our city. We've always commemorated that, and we'll have a memorial ceremony at the cemetery on Monday at 10 o'clock. I just want to relate very briefly one of my experiences to tell you a little bit about the impact of the American sacrifice. In 2012, I spent almost the whole year in Europe, and in August of that year, I was cycling from Italy into France. And I went along the Ligurian coast in Italy, and then along the Côte d'Azur in France. And on August 15th, I arrived at a village called Saint-Maxime in the south of France on the coast. And I didn't realize this, but on August 15th was the day that the Allies landed in 1944 in the south. D-Day was June 4th in Normandy, and in the south it was August 15th. And when I arrived at Saint-Maxime, the place was alive with the Stars and Stripes. There were American flags everywhere, and there was a big parade down the main street, and everyone was dressed in U.S. military uniforms. And they were commemorating the landing that liberated them in 1944. And from that point, none of those people spoke English. And I connected with one soldier. He spoke very good English because his wife was American. And he explained to me that this was the day of the liberation. And it's still celebrated today by these people. And as I cycled inland from Saint-Maxime, every village had a memorial, and the memorial stated the date that the Americans drove the Nazis out, the day of liberation. And in most of those villages, there was a little parade where, American songs were being sung from the 1940s. So the impact of the sacrifice, the impact of the United States on the world is enormous. And if you're ever in Holland or Belgium, don't leave there without visiting the American cemetery there. There's several American cemeteries, and you'll see these white crosses and Stars of David that go on as far as the eye can see. And every year, on June 4th, D-Day, Dutch children go and set flowers on those graves and sing the Star-Spangled Banner in English. So still today, it's so significant what we stand for in the world. So I think it's appropriate that we honor the veterans today. I really want to thank you all for being here. And I also want to thank James for this great tribute here that we have that will be permanent here in downtown Gloversville. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dan Engel from the Fulton County Veterans Services Agency. Dan?
Thank you, James. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, our dignitaries. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. Hopefully it'll get better as far as the weather goes. We'll see how that goes. But I want to share something with you that happened to me in my lifetime. I'll try to do it without getting choked up. But it's a true experience, and I want to share it with you. When I was 17 years old, I was serving in the U.S. Army and stationed in the Federal Republic of Germany. Yes, back then there was two Germanys. And it didn't take me too long to realize when you're far away from home and you're overseas that many of your friends become like family. And some become very close to you. They become dear to you. You spend holidays together. You spend Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's together because you all can't get home. Shortly after I turned 18 years old, I was still in Germany, but I lost one of those friends, a comrade in arms. It was the first time I experienced and confronted death while on active duty. It wouldn't be the last. Gonzo was a mechanic in my unit. He was quiet in nature, well-mannered, and had a big heart. He was the very definition of a gentle giant. He was from the Chicago suburbs. Devoutly religious, Gonzo practiced what he believed, and he led a wholesome life. During his funeral at the base chapel, I said a prayer in earnest, and I asked him to let me know that he was okay, to send me a sign that I knew came just from him. It was a dark and cloudy morning, and the air was damp from the long rain that had moved through the night before. You could smell the rain. I felt his presence with me before I even opened my eyes. And when I did, I instantly knew that he was okay. There were many stained glass windows in that chapel, but only two were cracked open at the very top, ever so slightly. A ray of sunshine, as thin as could be, had broken its way through a sky strewn with dark clouds, and it passed through the narrow crack of one of those windows. It got bigger as it descended upon me. I was aglow in a crowded chapel, just me and my ray of sunshine, as it circled about me. I felt special because I got my sign. I was blessed to witness such a thing. On Memorial Day, we honor all service members who perished while on active duty. We pay them tribute by visiting veterans memorials, monuments, statues, and national cemeteries. We pay homage to our veterans with their headstones and markers adorned with the stars and stripes. The flags placed on each grave remind us to consider the personal sacrifices they made, the blood they shed, and the life they gave. Those of us who have experienced the loss of a comrade know there is no such thing as a happy Memorial Day because it is a solemn occasion. Families who lost a son or a daughter, a husband or a wife, a mommy or a daddy won't recognize the sentiment because it is foreign to them. On Memorial Day, we take the day off to pay tribute to such a special class of veterans, to honor their memory, and to remain forever grateful for their freedoms that they've bestowed upon us and the democracy they've left behind. This Memorial Day, American flags throughout the country will wave in salute to those veterans who paid the ultimate sacrifice. We're gathered here today to pay tribute to those military veterans and their military service, to honor our hometown heroes, and to keep them alive in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Dan. Our next speaker is Senator Jim Tedisco. If you'd like to say a few words.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and join all of you. I like to say when I come to Fulton County, it's one of the best parts of the greatest Senate seat where all good things emanate, and that's the 49th Senatorial District, and you are a very important part of that. And I'm proud to be the Senate representative of this district. Today I have the opportunity on this wonderful and important unveiling of these hometown hero banners to be able to introduce to you our guest speaker. And I better do a good job because he's watching me from in front and he's watching me from behind here. So I hope I do him justice. But before I do that, I think we all realize something like this, and it's important to do as many things as possible, to speak, to stand up, to salute, to come together in these ceremonies to commemorate those who Ronald Reagan said a while back sacrificed their life so we could have our lives, to come together. But it's also important to realize these things don't just pop up and happen by themselves. And you heard all the names of those individuals who put themselves together, our veterans groups, our media from the Herald, all the elected officials who work so hard locally, who partner with myself and the Assemblyman to get this beautiful community, the community that it is, in the county that it is. So before I introduce the guest speaker, I want to have James and Ron come up, and I'd like to present them with a New York State citation, and Assemblyman Smullen, I have authored here, and present that to you in behalf of all of you, which, and don't ever forget this, you are the important part, most important part of our representative democracy. It's not presidents or congresspeople or senators or assembly people. You are the most important part of our representative democracy. And when you speak to us and you have great elected officials like the people next to me and surrounding me, good things happen. So congratulations to everybody who has done this and made this possible. We love photo ops. They're always good. I wish I had gone a little bit farther from the Cub Scouts into the Boy Scouts. I went up the ranks a little bit, but never got to the big honors and the big efforts that you have to put forth at the top of the Gold Star Boy Scouts rung. Because one of their mottos is always be prepared. And I realized that it was last week I took my earmuffs and my gloves out of my car. So, as you noticed over there, I'm going like this, shaking a little bit. But the great thing is to see this crowd here. I don't know, things go by very quickly and we tend to forget, but I don't think we'll ever forget this particular year and the isolation that we went through. It is so great to actually, when I say it's great to see you, it's great to see all of you, not just half of your face today. And that's tremendous to be in this place right now. And we're very close to vanquishing this thing, very close to being out of the woods. And nothing's clearer that that's going to happen shortly than all of our parks are opening up, all of our recreational areas are opening up, all of our campgrounds are opening up. And there's no better place than the Adirondacks to go out there and enjoy that fishing, that hunting, that hiking, and the picnicking that we do. And this is a clear indication we're going to get to a point where we're back to normalcy, and that's going to be fantastic. And seeing this crowd together, we don't have to separate ourselves. A lot of people have taken the vaccination, and that's tremendous. And as I said, I have the ability to now to introduce to you not a rising star in the New York State Legislature, a star that is bright and has risen. I want to illustrate to you my feeling on how intelligent you are of a group of citizenry and voters. To put Assemblyman Robert Smullen in the New York State Assembly was the gold standard of voting as far as I'm concerned. This is a man who, when you look at the definition of a public servant, you should see that picture next to it in the dictionary. Let me tell you why. I work with, I wouldn't say a tremendous number, but a lot of my colleagues who think you go into the room, you vote for them, they walk, you walk out, they walk out, they go to the legislature, and they say, now I'm going to do what's good for me, my family, what I think. That's not what a representative does. That's what a representative does. Gets back to his people, finds out what they want their community to be, whether it's a village, a town, a city, or a county that they represent. They want to know what the people in the assembly district he represents in Fulton County and other areas, out to Herkimer, what they want their community to be in a whole variety of areas. And he does that. He goes out there, he listens to his constituents, he comes back and he says, here's what we need to do. There are so many of my colleagues out there, unfortunately, not all of them, some of them want to find common ground. Go out there and yes, we take an oath of office, and believe me, this is a guy who knows what his oath of office is all about. He knows that he's got to stand up on the floor, and if you watch that, I don't know if anybody watches us on TV. I mean, if you have insomnia, watch us on TV, okay? In the Senate and the Assembly. But you should turn on your TV because you can get it on your TV and you can watch him. I don't know if anybody who stands up and fights harder for what he believes is good, appropriate, those pieces of legislation which are going to help your community and quality of life, and fights harder against those which are going to harm your quality of life. But there's something else he does above and beyond that. He's a man that tries to find the common ground with Democrats and Republicans. That's what we're there for. Before we start debating against or for something, we find out if what we have in common that's going to be good for all sides, no matter what your affiliation is. He does that. He finds out what's the common ground between legislators, whether in the Senate and the Assembly, because when you find the common ground, like Robert Smullen does, you create common good for your community. And if colleagues on all levels, where it's the federal government, state, local, village, just kept that in mind, you got to put down your swords when the time comes when something's good that's going to save lives, be important for your community and quality of life. This is the man who does that. And I know how he helped develop that. It's because of that. Was a Marine. Was one of the best, the brightest, most courageous, and compassionate fighting force for good in the whole world, the men and women of our armed forces. So I'm proud to see his banner up there. I'm proud to see all the banners up there. But today, in a solemn way, and over this weekend, and this illustrates what's so great about your community. This is the first one I was invited to. So definitely the first one I'm invited to. I want to be at that first one I'm invited to, of a series of maybe 10 or 15 I'll be at, speaking, talking, going through our prayers and remembering. Something we should do every day. Because today, with the help of our assemblymen and all of you and the media and the people who made this possible, we're remembering one thing. We're the greatest nation in the world. All the other individuals in every other country have the same freedoms and rights we have because they're inalienable rights. We're born with them. Nobody can give them to us. Nobody can take them away. We get to live them at a higher level. We live them at a higher level because of men like that and the man that's going to speak after me. And just as importantly, those who have given the very last measure of their lives so we can live our lives. Those are the commemorative individuals we salute. And in essence, beyond that, all those who have served over the year. I introduced you, not a rising star, a star for you who stands up for you in the New York State Legislature every single day. Assemblyman Robert Spaltmans. Come on up.
Thank you, Senator. I really appreciate the very kind words and of introduction. It's well and truly, it's an honor to be here today. And I'd like to just take a few minutes and talk about what I think are some of the things that are most important to us as a community. And it really is. It's fantastic to see everyone here today. It's fantastic to not have to wear a mask because you can be vaccinated and be together here in public. I'm very, very pleased to do that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Memorial Day. This hometown hero ceremony is fantastic. It's part of the community spirit that makes upstate New York a very special place. So to my fellow citizens, to the mothers, to the fathers, the sons, the daughters, the neighbors and friends that are all here today, that's why we gather together in community. And that's why our hometown here in Gloversville is such a great place. It's part of an exceptional nation that we call the United States of America, in which we are so proud to be. First of all and foremost, I want to thank the Fulton County Center for Regional Growth for putting this together. But I want to call out James Hannes for being what I call the community spark plug. the person that starts something good, that turns into something better, which indeed makes our lives richer. So, James, thanks you for turning this idea into reality. I've seen these pop up all over upstate New York, and I'm so glad that it's here today. I also want to thank the city of Gloversville for hosting the event. It's fantastic. Mayor DeSantis, I appreciate it, and I know Councilman Roback at large, he's here as well. We stand here today to honor our families and their members here at home who anxiously awaited a response about their loved one in time of war, in time of crisis, and they never got one. Maybe back in the days of old, they got a telegram. What a terrible way to receive news that your service member was never coming home, because that's what makes Memorial Day so incredibly difficult for some families. You know, today it's the kickoff of a weekend where we are going to enjoy the blessings of liberty that we have. The summer months are coming, even though it doesn't feel like it today, but soon we'll be at a barbecue with family and friends, enjoying ourselves. But for those families, and we know who they are in the community, they've lost someone serving in the military. This is a day of solemn remembrance. It's a stark reminder that a seat at their table will never be filled again. So I speak today with one purpose, and that's to honor the lives of those courageous Americans who have fought and died for this incredible country, which we call the United States of America. They were truly the best amongst us. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the history of the first Memorial Day. It used to be known as Decoration Day. It took place the first time on May 30th, 1868 at Arlington National Cemetery. Legend has it that that date was chosen because that's when the organizers thought that the flowers would be in bloom all across the nation. Spring has sprung, time has turned again, and flowers are in bloom. But Decoration Day, it was hosted first by the head of an organization of Union veterans by a man named Major General John A. Logan. And it was held to honor, of course, Civil War soldiers because the Civil War was fresh in their mind. But 5,000 people incredibly gathered at Arlington Cemetery, which is right across the river from the White House and from the Capitol. But there were 20,000 soldiers that just a few years before had not been there. And they gathered to honor those people with beautiful blooming flowers on Memorial Day. And on that first Decoration Day at the end of May in 1868, General Logan remarked that it was a day when Americans should honor the graves of the war dead, whose, quote, bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet and churchyard in the land after our great Civil War that we had. So I would like everyone today to hold in their hearts and thoughts those soldiers who fought for our independence, starting way back in 1776, so that their children and our children, and then our children's children, will live a life free as Americans, free from the oppression of what was the old world in Europe, free from the oppression of totalitarian ideologies that continue to stalk humanity. And that we, with the values of free people, hold only the true building blocks of a civilization that can endure for the ages. So keep in mind also your thoughts of those Americans who fought and died for their beliefs and what they viewed was the betterment of our nation in the Civil War, the bloodiest war of American history, which was fought to free those held in bondage against their will. And make room in your thoughts for those of the young men who were drafted into World War II, the first war in which there were many more American battle deaths than any other cause. So many young men and women were forced from their families with the draft and sent abroad to protect the United States, but never returned home. So I'd like to talk about one American amongst those who never came home from World War II. And that's a special person from Gloversville, a hometown hero, my great-uncle Paul Packy Rowley. Paul was my maternal grandmother's brother, a husband and the father of 3 children who enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1944. Not drafted, he enlisted, and he went to Europe to fight in the war against the Nazis. He did his 4 years of high school here. He worked as a bartender some. He worked in the leather industry. He was actually a Golden Gloves boxer, a natural fighter, born Irishman. He came from a family of 8 children. He was married to Alma Gardner Raleigh, and they had 3 sons, James, Edward, and William. And he went to Utica in January of 1944 and raised his right hand and swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And he was sent overseas. He became a private first class, but he was a member of the 36th Armored Infantry Regiment of the 3rd Armored Division, the famed Hell on Wheels Division. And he died of wounds received on April 2nd, 1945 in Paderborn, Germany. He almost made it to the end of the war. It ended only a month afterwards. He'd been active in combat for 8 months. And he finally, after his 3rd and final time that he was been injured, he died of those wounds. And he's buried today in Plot D, Row 21, Grave 21 of the American Battle Monuments Commission Cemetery in Margraten in Holland. He never came home. My great-grandmother, his mother, said, "No, leave him where he fell," as a testament to all of those Americans who gave their lives so that people in this world could be free. And today, actually, a Dutch family, 76 years after the fact, goes and tends his grave. And they do indeed place flowers on his grave every year in gratitude for his sacrifice, for his service, to make sure that they were liberated. And they too today, the people of the Netherlands, enjoy the same freedoms that we do here in America. Paul had the Bronze Star, 3 Purple Hearts, the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Marksmanship Badge, the World War II Victory Medal, the American Campaign Medal, the Army Presidential Unit Citation, the Army Good Conduct Medal, and the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign. He saw combat for all 8 months that he was in Europe. But his story of courage and sacrifice is just like so many others. You'll see him all around Gloversville now, thanks to this Hometown Heroes program. And some gave all for their communities so that we may live in peace and civility. And it continues today. There are young Americans, men and women, who are serving today. Many, like my generation, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, but those I see who served in Vietnam, and who served in Korea, and who have served in all the conflicts, that shows that America is a proud and a grateful and a strong nation. They've done so, and they continue to do so today, and I'm confident that young Americans will continue to do so in the future. Now, I've always been very proud and pleased to represent the 118th Assembly District, but I'm more proud and so to say that I served in the Marine Corps for everyone in America to be able to enjoy the blessings of liberty. I've had the honor and privilege to meet countless veterans, and I know that they've got it in their hearts today that we celebrate countless families who will always have an empty seat at their table, like my Uncle Paul, who never came home. Their stories inspire me to continue to serve, and I know many of you here today are of a similar thought. You're familiar with the deep-seated losses of grief, the sadness that comes with the sacrifice of our veterans that we support on Memorial Day. So today, in that regard, we all grieve together, and thank you for doing so. We grieve our brave brothers and sisters and parents and friends and neighbors who fought for our country and gave their lives for the United States of America. So on this Memorial Day, make room in your hearts for all those who served and who never came home, and who sacrificed everything for the United States of America. God bless all of you. God bless the United States of America, and thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Smullen. Part of the Gloversville Hometown Heroes program was to support a really worthy nonprofit that dedicates a lot of its service, its entire service, to housing veterans and providing community resources to them. A portion of all revenues supported from the sale of these banners were donated to the Veterans Community Housing Coalition of New York State. We have a representative of VCHCNY here today to say a few words. Michelle Strait, if you'd please come up.
Well, thank you all for coming out. My name is Michelle Viola Strait. I am not a veteran, but I am a double Blue Star mom. I have one in the Air Force and one in the Marines, and we are a very proud family. So to be here today, thank you. To be here today is very special. Just dialing it back, I'm sure you will agree that the word homeless and veteran should never be in the same sentence. These brave men and women on the banners here with me today and out in the public with us raised their right hand, swore an oath to serve and protect our country. The least we owe them when they return home is a bed to sleep in and food on their table. Veteran and Community Housing Coalition is the beginning of a solution. What we do is we provide housing and support services to veterans and their families. We proudly serve 7 counties: Fulton, Montgomery, Warren, Washington, Schoharie, Schenectady, and Saratoga County. It's events like this that allow us to connect with more people in the community, more partners, more veterans, more families that are struggling. We have permanent housing, transitional housing, case management services, and I'm proud to say that we have a 98% success rate for all of our veterans and families, which is pretty impressive. We do it because we mean it. We are there 365, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The recipe for success comes in our case management services. We have transitional housing. We are proud that we have the only VA-funded female homeless shelter in New York State, one of 7 in the country. This year, we plan on a new project. It's going to be very near and dear. It's a very special project. This project is going to serve a population of veterans that are receiving no supports whatsoever. And this is the homeless female veteran mom with their children. Right now, there are no services. Thank you. These poor veteran women have been through so many things throughout the years. They have no supports. If they come forward with their children are going to be taken away. The only way they can go into housing. So this is the beginning of that solution. Foreverly House will be able to take in those veteran moms and their kids, get them the support services that they fought for our country for, get their children enrolled and in good places, and keep them supported throughout their lives. So it's events like this, and we cannot thank them enough for all that you've done for us, the awareness. Please do keep our veterans in your hearts and minds, and we can't thank you enough for this support. Our information, you can get it. It's vchcny.org. 100% of all proceeds that are donated to us go back into our veteran programming. So we don't only just talk the talk, we walk the walk. So again, thank you all very much for coming out today and having us as your partner.
Okay. Before we move on, we have active service members here. I'd like to recognize local recruiters from the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force. I'd like to come up and just give them some recognition and a round of applause for their active duty and for an opportunity to be recognized. Sergeant Haynes here is with the U.S. Army, and Staff Sergeant Gomez here with the U.S. Air Force. Please, one more round of applause for our active duty folks. Okay, finally, we have a Commander John Quackenbush here from the American Legion Post 137 on behalf of the Harold Wilmot Post here in downtown Gloversville to say a few words regarding the post and Mr. Wilmot's service. So, John.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John C. Quackenbush. I'm the commander of the Harold Wilmot Memorial Post 137, and I'm froze. I would like to introduce my auxiliary president, who's fortunate enough to be here because she's a hard-working gal. Would you please stand up, April Fontaine? Thank you. I wrote this down briefly. I didn't think I was going to have to speak. Anyway, I'm going to start out with good morning. I'm me, Commander of the Legion Post in Harold Wilmot. And I want to say hello to Mayor DeSantis, Senator Tedesco, Assemblyman Smallins, and I know you. His mouth runs worse than mine does. All right. I would like to thank Mr. James Hannes, the Downtown Gloversville Development Specialist for the Fulton County Center for Regional Growth, for the invite. Our post was built by the Honorable Lucius N. Latour for the veterans of Fulton County. I'd like to read the epitaph. Private, I might get choked up. Private Harold Wilmot, 18th Company, 5th Regiment, 4th Brigade, U.S. Marine Corps, 2nd Division, regular, in parentheses, U.S. Army, American Expeditionary Forces. This is on our wall over the fireplace. Killed in action, Boyce D. Bello, Marne, France, June 10, 1918. Some line in manhood, supreme sacrifice, in whose memory this post is dedicated. I'm sorry, I get emotional. Now, if I can, usually every year the auxiliary sells poppies. We were going to do it this weekend, but the weather's so inclement that we backed off on it, all right? We were going to do Nace, we were going to do TJ's, and we did get permission to do Bridge Street in Johnstown. We used to go up on 5th Avenue, but they won't allow us anymore. There's too much, what's the word I want to use? Well, they were afraid we were going to get hurt, so I don't blame them. But let me read this poem by Dr. John McCrae. He was a colonel in the English Expeditionary Forces. This is about poppies. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row. Then marked are placed, and in the sky the larks so bravely sinking fly. Scarce heard among the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawns, saw sunset glow. Lived and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders field. Can you imagine? Take up our car with a flow. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If we break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders field. By Commander Dr. John McCrae. He was a colonel in the American Expeditionary Forces. And that's all I got. Thank you.
So as you can see, the banners are hung. Thank you again, DPW. But so today's unveiling is very ceremonial on behalf of Harold Wilmot, who's the namesake of our local American Legion. So it's only fitting if Harold Wilmot is the banner we're unveiling today. So without further ado, Commander Quackenbush, if you can unlift the banner and show it. Private Wilmot's banner will be hung at the northeast pole at the four corners, just on the other side of the chamber. So it'll be front and center, only a few blocks before you're able to get up to the American Legion post. So thank you again, Commander Quackenbush. Thank you very much. For final words and send-off, going to hand it over to Ron Peters.
Thank you, James. Let's give a big round of applause for James. He worked very hard on this event. James, great job. All right, all right. I'd also like to thank all in attendance and all of our great speakers. Thank you for your kind words. But remember, Memorial Day is going to be about friends and family gatherings, but more importantly, it's about respect and remembrance to our veterans. If we could all just stand with that in mind and give a moment of respect to our veterans who are resting right now. Thank you. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have this event today. But thank you all for coming, and again, thank you for all of our speakers. James, great job. Thank you, John, Senator Dan, and more. Thank you. That concludes our event.